All right, so today we're diving into something I think a lot of people might have some preconceived notions about solitude. We're looking at excerpts from a book called The Power of Solitude, Finding Joy in Being Alone. And, well, it turns out that maybe spending time by yourself isn't as bad as, we sometimes think it is.
Yeah, it's really interesting how this book really kind of picks apart the difference between solitude and loneliness. Those two things kind of get mashed together, I guess, in our minds. But the book, it makes this really clear distinction between the two.
Yeah, and like, I think everyone's kind of felt that, right? Like you're in a crowded room and you still just feel completely alone. That's loneliness. But the book is saying that solitude is something else. I don't know if you ever felt
Oh,
that.
yeah, definitely. Like loneliness, according to the book, is that it's that feeling of emptiness, right? Like you're missing some sort of connection. It's not just about physically being by yourself. But solitude, on the other hand, is about making the choice to be alone and actually like enjoying your own company, finding some peace in that.
So it's like it's intentional,
Yeah.
you know? It's not just being isolated. The book makes a big deal out of that. But I'm kind of curious, like, why do you think solitude gets such a bad rap these days?
Well, that's a good question. And the book kind of touches on this idea that, we live in this culture that really values being connected all the time, like being busy, being social. We're constantly being told to be outgoing and productive and, taking time for solitude. It almost feels like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, it's like we're expected to be on all the time.
Exactly.
But this book, what really got me was that it talks about how good solitude can actually be for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. And one of the big things the book talks about is that solitude can actually make you more creative. It says that when we're alone, our minds can kind of wander more freely. And the book even mentions this thing called the default mode network, which is it's basically like when you're daydreaming.
Oh, yeah.
And that's when these aha moments happen. Like when you suddenly get a great idea.
Oh, that totally makes sense. Yeah, I
Yeah.
swear. Like the best ideas I ever get are when I'm like in the shower or when I'm out walking by myself. It's like your brain finally has a chance to kind of, just breathe and connect the dots a little bit.
That's a great example. And the book also talks about how solitude can help you get a stronger sense of self. Like when you're always around other people and their opinions, it can be hard to
Hmm.
really figure out what you think and what you feel. But when you're alone, you can tune into that, your own thoughts and feelings and values without anyone else kind of like butting in.
Right. It's like taking a step back from everything else to remember. Like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, this is who I am.
Exactly.
But I mean, the book doesn't pretend that it's always easy, right? It's got to be there's got to be challenges to finding solitude sometimes, isn't there?
Oh, you're absolutely right. The book definitely acknowledges that solitude can be, well, it can be tough. Like for some people, being alone can bring up all these feelings of loneliness or anxiety. And it can bring up thoughts and emotions that maybe they'd rather just avoid when they're with other people.
Yeah, I get that. It's like suddenly there's no distractions and it's just you and your thoughts.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think the book also had like some tips on how to approach those challenges, didn't
Yeah.
it?
It did, yeah. The book, it emphasizes like starting small, like don't jump right into some big silent retreat for a week. Instead, maybe just start with like a few minutes every day where you're just by yourself with your thoughts. And it even suggests like finding some activities that you actually like to do alone, whether that's reading or, taking a walk or even just sitting in silence.
Right. It's like building up a muscle,
Mhm.
right? You wouldn't start lifting a ton of weight right away. You'd start small and work your way up.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And as you start getting more comfortable being alone, you can slowly increase the amount of time that you spend in solitude. And the book also talks about how important it is to be intentional. Solitude isn't just about being physically alone, it's about actually being mentally present, with yourself.
Oh, so it's like meditation then. Like you're making that choice to focus your attention inward instead of, all the stuff going on around you. That's really helpful advice for anyone listening who might want to try to get a little more solitude in their lives.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, I'd like to leave you with this question. What's one little thing you could do today to experience the power of solitude yourself? What could you discover about yourself or about the world when you just, give yourself that space for quiet reflection?